Most people would like to know what to say and how to say it. Everybody knows more knowledge about a subject instills confidence. So let's get started. This talk is supposed to be about handling objections, but the best course of action is to not get objections in the first place. So to begin with, let's dive right in and find out how to say things that avoid rejection. Now, when you first start talking to someone, it's not about the presentation or the price. It's all about the magical first few seconds when you meet a prospect. In the first few seconds, a prospect makes a decision to trust you and believe you, or to turn on the salesman alarm, put on the sounds too good to be true alarm, and look for the catch. Now, that decision is immediate, and unfortunately, it's usually final. We need to learn how to build that bond of trust and belief in seconds by talking directly to the decision-making part of the brain, the subconscious mind. Now, let me give you a few examples. You give a perfect presentation to a good prospect, and you get a no. Someone else starts with a 3 to 8 seconds of rapport directed to the prospect's subconscious mind, and they can do no wrong. They almost always make the sale, even if they are incompetent and his prospect has to sell himself. Now, professionals know that the sale is made before the presentation begins. The first decision by the prospect is whether to accept what you say is true or to put up walls of disbelief and distrust. They make this decision long before your presentation. Here's an example. Someone knocks on your door and says, "I'm from the IRS and I'm here to help." Have you made a decision to trust them? I would have an instantaneous decision to be on my guard. Think of it another way. You run into a sleazy, fast-talking used car salesman and he offers you a fantastic deal. Would you immediately trust and believe him, or would you be thinking, this sounds too good to be true? What's the catch? And I better not trust this guy. Now, the biggest sale we need to make is to get our prospects to believe the good things we're going to tell them in our upcoming presentation. Is this making sense to you at all? I hope it is. Now, professionals create trust, belief, influence, and rapport before they start their presentation. If you don't create this rapport before you start, the ideas and messages inside of your head never get past your prospect's salesman alarm, too good to be true filter, distrust of strangers, skepticism, etc., etc., etc. When you do not create rapport first, you hear things like, "I don't have any money. I have to talk it over with someone else. I need to think it over. I can't see myself doing this. Or I don't have time." All of these statements simply tell us they didn't believe what we told them. If you learn how to create rapport quickly, you won't have as many objections to deal with. And we don't need more good things to say. We need to learn the skills so that people believe the good things we're already saying. Really think about this. Do our prospects want to live longer, or do they want to die sooner? Do they want more money in their lives or less money? So we offer them a chance to live longer, to have more money, and they say no. Doesn't that seem rather strange? What we do is we take a pre-sold prospect, and because we have not created rapport, we literally talk them out of it. We've all experienced this. We say great things to our prospects and they don't do business with us. The first thing we need to do is build instant rapport. That is the first step of communication. When we do this, they're going to believe the good things we say and are more likely to do business with us. Here's how to build that rapport in the first few seconds. But first, honesty, integrity, sincerity, and having your prospect's best interests at heart don't work. Now, I'm not saying that you should be dishonest. I'm just saying those things are the wrong tools to get rapport. They don't work. Think about the last person who said no. Were you honest with them? Were you a person of integrity? Were you sincere? Did you have that person's best interests at heart? And yet that person didn't believe you and said no. Yet con men are able to get honest, hardworking people to hand their money over in just a few minutes. You see, they have special skills built that, make trust and rapport. We can learn those same skills and use them for good instead of bad. We put up walls of disbelief and skepticism towards people who do not think the way we do. In other words, we have these little programs in our subconscious mind that say, I can trust people who are like me, who think the same way and see the world from the same viewpoint. For example, if you're in a foreign country and you run into someone from our country, you're going to have instant rapport because of all the different people around you. Now, we tend to trust and have better rapport with people with the same religion, same political party, or ethnic background, etc. We're instantly skeptical of everything a person says if they think differently than we do. When you tell a prospect something he already believes, His subconscious mind says, hey, this guy thinks like me. I can believe the things he says. You can't get trust from a prospect if you tell him something he disagrees with. Here's a few phrases. We all want to live longer. Growing old is painful. Everybody needs more energy. Health doesn't come from a pill. If you're approaching it from the business standpoint, you could say 2 paychecks are better than 1. Every mom wants to stay home with her babies. Inflation is killing us. With open statements like these, your prospects will be thinking, yeah, you speak my language. Isn't it easy to agree with these statements? Did you feel your head nodding in agreement? That's the feeling you want your prospect to have. This is the difference between amateurs and professionals. You can only talk to people if you're at their speed, share their view of the world, and come from their beliefs. This is called pacing. Think of a New York businessman and a slow-talking Texan. If one tries to sell the other, they need to be at the same pace. In other words, the Texan needs to speed things up and the New Yorker needs to slow things down, or no business is going to happen. Now, I suggest you tell your prospect 2 things they can believe before you tell them anything about the product or the opportunity. Then they can comfortably believe your presentation. Now, we must get our message and ideas into their head, and that's why we have to work hard on building rapport. Start gently. Pace our prospects with 2 things they can agree with so that the rest of the things we say are going to get into their heads. Now, a couple of more examples. We all want to live longer. After all, dying is inconvenient. Growing old is inevitable, but we can now feel as young as we want. Our health is our best possession. We want to keep it as long as possible. Growing old is painful. We all want to feel younger. For the opportunity, you could say things like, if we don't have our own business, we're sentenced to a lifetime of labor. Sure, we can retire at 65, but we'll retire on 40% of what we can't live on now. Now, we either work our dream or on someone else's dream. Isn't it time we started working on our own dreams? Next, work on always smiling. It's hard for some people, including me, but it's a fantastic sales tool. Think about babies. How do they know to trust someone? Generally, if you smile at them, they smile back and trust us. It's a built-in survival mechanism within us. A simple smile is a great rapport-building tool. The human mind has a built-in program that says, if someone smiles, they can be trusted. Seems like a stupid program, but it works. So tell that first fact and smile. Tell that second fact and smile. This will build instant rapport. I'm not saying that a smile is always going to create instant trust and rapport and belief, but I am saying if you frown, you're dead. Some examples. Staying at home with our children is great, so we all have to make a living. Then smile. Bills eat up most of our paycheck. It's hard to save money. Then smile. Paying taxes means less money for us. We want to use that tax money to retire early. Then smile. Building rapport takes seconds. We don't have to chit-chat and build relationships. Today, people have short attention spans. They value their time, so our prospects will make instant snap decisions to preserve their time. The last century is over. With the advent of the internet, people have 0 attention spans. We really don't have the time like we did before. 10 seconds is about all we have. Now, professionals know we have to manage that time wisely by using effective rapport-building techniques. Certain words trigger deep-seated programs inside our minds. Now, these programs command us to make instant decisions before the presentation begins. Think about politics. 2 words, Republican and Democrat. I bet those 2 different ways of thinking happen, one good and maybe one bad. Now, we don't have time to think through everything we do because of these programs. If you walk down the street and somebody smiles at you, we automatically smile back. We don't have to think about it. One of our biggest programs is a survival program. This is what makes prospects skeptical. They're afraid of being tricked, and skepticism is a way of self-protection. So why not use survival program to deliver our message in total rapport? We do this with certain words and phrases. Most people is one of these phrases. One of our ways of surviving is to be in a group. No one wants to be a loner. It's safer to stay with a crowd. There's safety in numbers. Think about that ad. 4 out of 5 dentists recommend. Immediately, most people think that toothpaste is pretty good. Now, we make decisions based on most people every day. When you see 2 restaurants side by side, one is super busy and the other is about empty, Which one do you go to? Now, another phrase is everybody knows and everybody says. These phrases seem to bypass your prospect's resistance program, such as skepticism, negative past experiences, too good to be true, what's the catch? Another phrase is, well, you know how? Now, when you put this phrase in front of your facts, and most people, it'll automatically execute this script in their subconscious mind. Well, if I already know how, then it must be true, because what I know is true. Sounds silly, but that's how most people think. Another phrase, there's an old saying. If anybody, anywhere, at any time says there's an old saying, then it must be true, because it's an old saying. Now our mind accepts it and moves on to other things. A good way to turn off the salesman alarm is to ask questions. When you ask questions and they answer you, you're doing the buying. And when you do a presentation, you're selling. Now, a good question is, what would you like to know first? Instead of selling and pitching them, you put them in the question asking mode. When you ask, what would you like to know first? Your customer will tell you what they want to know first. And you'll be talking about what really matters to them. And we always tell people how the patches work, but some people don't care. They just want to know that it does work. For example, I don't care how my cell phone works. I just want it to work. Give sincere compliments. This is harder than it seems. You can't give obvious compliments or they're going to build a wall of skepticism. Less obvious compliments show you care enough to look deeper. An example, you're always smiling. Where do you find the energy to smile while raising 4 kids and a husband? Add a question after your compliment. This takes the pressure off the prospect. And they don't have to thank you for the compliment because they have a question to answer. And that's more comfortable for them. Get your prospect talking about himself immediately by asking a question. People like to talk about themselves. This will make them feel more comfortable. Examples. Have you lived here long? What would you do with more free time? If they're scared, resistant, and suspicious, our presentation is falling on deaf ears. If they're talking about themselves, they're not skeptical. The more they talk, the more you stay in rapport. Try not to use the why question. This can put them on the defensive and ruin rapport. For recap, I've given you 13 techniques for creating better conversation, better selling, and better belief. Number 1, tell your prospect a fact that you both can agree on. Number 2, pace your speed to match your prospect's speed. Number 3, tell them 2 facts you both believe. Number 4, smile. Number 5, most people. Number 6, the phrase everybody knows. Number 7, everybody says. Number 8, well, you know how? Number 9, there's an old saying. Number 10, what would you like to know first? Sincere compliment is number 11, and get your prospect to do the talking. Avoid a why question they have to defend. And remember, rapport is something that happens in seconds, and we can control it. Now, there's always going to be objections, but this information should eliminate some before they happen. Next week, we can talk about how to handle the ones you get. Thank you.